Hey, I'm Dr. Patrice Berry, and I have to tell you this story. It's a Juneteenth story, but it's been hundreds of years in the making. Why am I telling it today and not on Juneteenth? Because I won't be working on Juneteenth as my ancestors wished. Okay, so I've been doing a series at my church on the Slave Bible. I look up the Slave Bible. But it wasn't just on the Slave Bible. It was on this. It's called the Slave Bible: Why We Are Apart and What We Can Do About It. It literally is tracing all the way back to the point of separation. And I was doing it at my church. I've done this presentation before in other spaces, but at my church it had different meanings. Our church is the Mother Church of Georgia. It is the first church of Georgia. When Georgia was founded, our church was founded too in 1733. Church has gone through many changes. Most recent, almost 20 years ago, and it was over the role of women and the inclusion of LGBTQIA people. 28 people either left or were pushed out, and those 28 people sued and won the building back. And so now the congregation, which is big and strong and beautiful, is based on all of that inclusion and belonging, and I shouldn't call it inclusion, inclusivity. And belonging. It is based on worship. It is centered in all of these things. Anyway, but our history is very, very long. Our history, well, the first bishop of Georgia was also the bishop who preached a sermon on the day of fasting and consecration to support the Civil War. We have a long history of all kinds of things. John Wesley was the fourth rector there. Lots of history. So, Juliet Gordon Lowe, the woman who started the Girl Scouts, was a member there, baptized, buried, married, buried, confirmed, the whole thing, her whole life there. It's a long, long history. So I'm teaching the Bible, the slave Bible, about the slave Bible and other documents of indoctrination or catechism or whatever towards Christianity for people who were enslaved. Teaching all of this and connecting it to our church history, which is the source of the church history. I mean, the man who owned the cotton exchange right there at Christ Church. So one of the women in our church, well, two of the women are really amazing historians, one black, one white historian, Barry Bradley, says to me, I've been working on this book on the history of our church, and I found in our documents the names and dates of baptism, because I had mentioned that we know there were up to 200 people attending church there, black, free, or enslaved. And they were attending what was called Sunday school, and they were also attending church, black, free, and enslaved. So she said, I've found a bunch of those names, and I don't know how many I have yet. I'll go home and count them. But I said, will you share the list with me? She said, absolutely. She said, I was a little bit embarrassed about seeing that C in front of the name. And I was like, no, don't be embarrassed. If it weren't for that C, we wouldn't be able to find him. So she sends me the list, and I'm blown away by this list. Prior to the Civil War, black people, free and enslaved, attending church where I attended church. And I know I've seen them up in the balcony and down in the congregation when I'm looking out and seeing. And it's amazing. So I see one name that I think I've heard before, and I call my contractor son, and I'm like, what is your family name? And he tells me, and I scream. And he says, are you okay? And I said, yes. I got to pull over. And I pull over, and I pull up this list that's now in my phone, and there's his family. There's his family right there. That's his family right there, baptized. He's been in my church. He said, no wonder I felt like I belonged there. He said, everybody was so welcoming, but I felt like I belonged. And I was like, I know that feeling, brother. So I look to the right of that column, and my heart kind of drops a little bit, because his family was enslaved. Even though they're baptized there, they're married in that congregation, they're enslaved. And I said, oh. And he said, what is it? And I said, your family had been enslaved, and I know the family that were enslaved too. And in fact, I know the direct descendant of that family. And she and I have had conversations about the fact that her family were enslavers, and she was She doesn't feel, she just doesn't, all of the feels, and knowing that history. And we discussed it in depth one day, and we decided that we would do everything we can now to make a better today and a better tomorrow, because we don't have the ability to go back in time and change it. And if we changed it, what would we be messing with that brought forth the changes? We don't know. We don't know. We can't unravel what we did not put together. But we can do something about now. We can take the ends of that string and turn it into something else for everybody. So I said, oh my gosh, your family was enslaved, and I know the family, they were enslaved too. And he said, so do I. And I said, wait, what? And he said, yeah. And then he gave me a piece that my friend from church did not know. Their family, they had been passed to a daughter, which is, read Jones's book, they were her property. It happened very often. And in some cases, when the families were left intact, they were insisting that they would leave them intact and give them to this daughter or granddaughter. And I don't know if they were instructed to do this or how it was done, but that daughter sometimes was much worse, sometimes was much better. But what my contractor son told me was that this family had bequeathed to them 300 acres of land. Here's the thing, and this is a hard thing to say for everybody. We all think we have the only picture. We all think we have the only piece. I went to my friend Hermina Glass Hill, the Black historian at my church, to get in-depth other pieces. She gave me the fact that this name, even though the spelling has changed, it's the same name. She can see in time where the name change happened. She can trace back from her side, looking at Black documents and Black history and Black writing. She also went through and found other names and was like, oh, I know what happened to this family and where they went. I have a friend who's a historian who researches this family. Oh my God, they were sitting in our church. And then this family, this is this and this is that. We don't have the whole picture until we share all of our pieces together. This past Sunday was Trinity Sunday, and I've never seen a better example of understanding a way into understanding the Trinity. That these 3-in-1 things are literally 3 pieces of one, 3 parts of one, 3 whole separate existing pieces that are one. We can go on and live our story completely on our own. We can do it. White folks can go on completely living their story on their own. But until we come together with all other races, nations, languages, and people, we don't get to see the whole story. We don't get to experience the full embodiment of that miracle that he knew one piece and the other side knew the other piece. And both pieces were necessary in the freedom and moving forward of all of us. Uncovering these pieces, or actually Barry Bradley uncovered a piece, Hermina Glass Hill uncovered a piece, Mike Brown uncovered a piece, Laura Lawton uncovered a piece, and then bringing all of these pieces together. I guess that's why I feel this sense of belonging. Because it's really part of my gig to pull the pieces together into one story, to take big old crazy concepts that are amazing concepts and bring them to where we all get the stuff from them. We all have a time and a place and a calling, but we're all called to bring our piece. And if we keep trying to replicate somebody else's piece or be what somebody else wants us to be, we will never, as Dr. Howard Thurman said, hear the sound of the genuine within. And if we don't hear the sound of the genuine, we will always be dancing on the ends of strings that somebody else is pulling. Tell your stories and share them. Come together, listen, pay attention without judgment. Listen and hear the bigger story. I love you.